This was about a year and a half after becoming a grandmaster. Traveling in a train, and so there was this man. He just started talking to me, and said, "What do you do?" He took a deep breath and said, "I'm a chess player." Then he says, "Okay, but what do you do?" So I said, "No, I'm a chess player. I play chess very actively." And then he said, "Young man, I would." Let me give you a little advice. Sports career is very risky. My advice to you is not to make a living from chess. I mean, if you were Viswanathan Anand, you could do it, but it seems unduly risky in your case, something like this. So I just said, "Oh, okay." And we left it at that. It was just one of the greatest encounters of my life. I remember playing a few times with her, though very soon it was clear that I should join a chess club to get better. So the thing about my mother is that she knew how to play and she played in the family. So I think she got as good as people get playing within the family. But clearly she never went and had a chance to play in a club, and she had kids to bring up and all that. So she was not able to pursue it much. I remember we had a holiday in Shimla once, and I was already very strong. I would say maybe one of the top juniors of the country. And so we played a game, and I started fooling around a bit. I mean, taking some liberties here and there kind of thing. And then suddenly I realized I was lost. And I remember being quite shocked because I was fairly cocky and I thought I should beat her. But this one I actually managed to lose. And I didn't ask her what she thought of this, but I was quite shocked then. So she was obviously fairly good, but she never had a chance to play on her own. I remember her though accompanying me to many, many tournaments. So she accompanied me till I was 16 almost. I remember in Manila, she would accompany me to the chess club. Every time we'd get into these jeepneys, these old converted military vehicles or whatever. We'd get in these jeepneys, go to the chess club. Then she would just stand outside. Or wait outside while I was doing my chess class, and then we'd come back together. In recent years, she would have either Aruna or my sister on WhatsApp or something. They keep giving me updates as to what he's doing. So she was always following it. It was very difficult to separate the memories of your mother from the memories of the person who accompanied you to a chess tournament. They sort of fuse. But well, like I said, with your mother, you just hear their voice in the background always. That was a TV show which would have a 1 hour game explained. So there would be a guy, he would explain a game for 40-45 minutes. This would be a game played somewhere recently in the world. He would try to show what had happened. It was remarkable because in the 1970s already they had chess like that on television, and it's still not common. So chess was really very popular in the Philippines then. And at the end of the show they would give a puzzle. And if you solve the puzzle, you would send your answer. They would put all the correct answer in a raffle and then pull out one, and that person would get invited to the next show. He would collect his prize and he could pick up a chess book or something. So that was the rough idea. But I was in school when the program was on. So it was around 1 and 2 in the afternoon. So what my mother would do, she would watch the whole show. She would write down everything they said about the game. And then when I got back, she would show me the game and say, he said that this move was good because of this and that kind of thing. We'd play through the game together. And then we'd solve the puzzle together and send the entry. And maybe not at the beginning, but towards the end, halfway through our stay, I started to give the correct answer almost every time. So we were sending in the correct answer, and I was getting picked more and more often. So by the time I got the 8th or 9th prize, they asked me to come over there, and they said, this is our chess library. You can just take 15-20 books, it doesn't matter, but maybe you can not send any more entries because it looks like you're the only one watching the show. I'll sometimes have these constant store positions, but there's also weekly ones and monthly. Something which worked in the previous tournament, I'll try to repeat for far too long. Like sometimes you'll have breakfast at 9 and you'll win that day. And the next morning at 8:30 you want to go for breakfast, but part of you is reluctant to go before 9. and then, but in the face of it, you realize it's absurd, but one part of you is just uncomfortable. You understand this can have nothing to do with my success, but part of it says, do you want to find out? So, like this, but dozens of things. I mean, it can be a certain pen that you use, a certain time you leave to go to the hall. I mean, every little thing can bug you. And so I made a conscious effort at least to be aware of this. And so nowadays I'm much better at it. If something works yesterday, I think today, and if today I feel I want to do something different, I'll just go ahead and do it and close my eyes and say it doesn't matter. And quite often it doesn't, but the day it does, you think maybe I shouldn't have done it. This sort of thing. One of the things I like to be left alone before a tournament. And it's easy with people who are malicious, who try to approach you, but a lot of people will be very well intentioned and actually just want to show some support or something. But how do you tell them, look, I really want to be left alone now? But I think if you then go on Twitter, you're asking for it. So if you're trying to shut yourself off, you should do it completely. And so I generally don't tweet during an event. In chess, the mind games can also be silent almost, but nowadays it's broken out into the surface, if you like. I mean, most modern chess players will just tweet, not outright insults, but they keep on teasing each other, and there's a certain amount of probing going on. I think it's even good fun and still fairly good natured compared to the bad old days. So the bad old days were the Fischer-Spassky match, when all this, I mean, there was no Twitter, but there was no need for it. People were just going at each other. And the worst, I think, were the Karpov-Korchnoi matches, where both teams would file a protest every evening about some innocuous behavior of the other side. And the Baguio match was legendary. So it started even before the match. So before the match, the Soviets said, well, Korchnoi doesn't have a passport yet, and he has left the Soviet Union, so he should play under a white flag, saying, I'm stateless on it, and we'll play under the Soviet flag. So then Korchnoi responds, oh no, I have a better idea. Let me play under the Soviet flag, but I'll write I've escaped. All right. And then it went on. They started, Karpov asked for a yogurt during the game. And they actually spent time negotiating this. Karpov asked for a yogurt during the game. Then Korchnoi said, but the flavor and the time must be negotiated in advance, because otherwise
the flavor of the yogurt.
Yeah, otherwise it could be a coded signal. You could send blueberry yogurt, and that Karpov understands, oh, the people are telling me to make to do this, or to make this move, or to go for this plan that we had done earlier. And if the time is not agreed, then the time they send a yogurt could be a coded signal. So everything must be pre-negotiated. So they have to say blueberry yogurt at 7 p.m. and only the yogurts that we negotiate in advance. So that's what I say with the golden days. And then Karpov and Kasparov as well had quite a rumpus. But I think once the backdrop of the Cold War went, chess players got more relaxed and more mainstream, or more boring, if you like. I have great respect for him as a chess player. And recently, we've even had fun at a personal level. That wasn't the case so much when we played, because there were many chess players with whom I hung out. So we were friends off the board and rivals at the board, and that was it. So most chess players, I can remember having dinner with them several times, going out here and there together, traveling together, all this stuff. With Kasparov, I think this happened once, and we had like a million opportunities. So most think he was, in a sense, I don't know if it was a conscious effort, but he was always a bit aloof. So we had a very rough time when I refused to help him in his campaign for president of FIDE. And for some time, I think we barely acknowledged each other's presence, but recently it's been nice again, and we speak, and whenever we meet, we chat a bit. And the last few years, in fact, I've conversed with him more than I did for the first 25 years. I don't think of Kasparov as a political person, but clearly he's got political opinions. I see him as an agitator or a commentator rather than a politician. Because he actually, I think I can't see him running a party. And there's something about a party and the party bureaucracy and the party machinery that I just can't see him doing. So he's an agitator. He's someone who can bring up an issue and harp on it for a while. And he was very unsuccessful in chess politics as well. I mean, if he can't make it in chess politics, I just don't see it happening outside. As for me, for pretty much the same reason, I can't see myself going anywhere. I would say the main reason is this. I'm a chess player. I like thinking about chess. I like being lost in the world of chess. But if you've become a politician, even a chess politician, it means you have to go around shaking hands with people and pretending you're fascinated by every little detail of their life and how are their kids doing and how they get. I mean, that is part of the thing. And so first of all, I can't see that working out. And I'm not the kind of person who likes going around convincing people. So I just can't see myself ever getting into politics. I mean, it wasn't like I was unsuccessful in Rapid and Blitz. I was just totally out of it. Leuven I thought was a one-off, and then I did badly in St. Louis as well, and it kept going like this. So that by the time I went to Saudi Arabia, and in fact, I had turned down, or I'd mentally turned down that event. So in October, I thought, well, something is not clicking. Let me take a year off, and then I'll think about how to do better in it later on. But Saudi Arabia turned out to be the most attractive World Rapid and Blitz tournament ever. One of the things I noticed was in the time it took between the rounds, it took about 40 minutes for the pairings to be made. And you're sort of endlessly walking around looking for someone to chat with, and I found that this habit was destroying my focus. So this year I took my computer with me with a couple of chess puzzles on it, and some books on it as well. So, and my idea was between the rounds I'll just sit in a corner and work on something. It doesn't have to be, it's not the work, it's the fact that I'm doing something specific rather than simply wandering around. And I thought that will help with the lack of focus. And then the tournament just went like a dream. I mean, I would have been extremely happy with 8th or 9th place. Because, I mean, it's a field of 700, so it's not quite last place, but it's, I thought that would be a top 10 finish in these events would be nice. Because again, given where I was coming from, I felt that a comeback has to happen in stages. And it just went like a dream. I mean, you can't make this up. I just win the thing. It's almost a shock for people that somebody is able to play into his late 40s. Whereas once upon a time, nobody even noticed. And when I was growing up, the average age of the top 10 in the world was 36. I checked this again. I mean, I took a random rating list from the 1980s and I saw what was the top 10 then. It was like 35, 36. I did that again recently and it was 22. But it was 22 when Topalov and me were both in the top 10. So both of us in our 40s were kind of balancing it out, which means it's even younger. 30, 40 years back, experience was accounted for a lot more in chess. So essentially, before computers, you had to figure out stuff on your own. And you had to take examples of other games, books, published materials and so on. And then you had to work out a lot of the conclusions. And it took a long time for you to understand something. Then once you understood it, you had to keep looking at it till you became completely familiar with it. And all this took time. So that once upon a time, experience counted for a lot. I mean, the problems associated with age in chess is generally that you get worse at calculation. So there's constant, I do this, he does that, I do this, he does that. You start to make mistakes, things like that creep in, you forget a little detail here or there. But once upon a time, experience compensated that heavily. Smyslov played a candidates tournament in his late 70s. Korchnoi was at the world top well into his late 60s. Once upon a time, proximity to a chess community or a chess club or chess coach was important if you wanted to get any guidance whatsoever. Now it's not. It still makes a difference, but the difference is just a little bit at the end. A coach can help orient you, can help point you in the right direction and so on. If you're doing everything yourself, you might waste a bit of time, but essentially there is no longer a difference in being born in Moscow and being born in some Pacific island. the difference is much smaller than it used to be. And so the computers have leveled that in a sense. I mean, nowadays, if somebody knows how to work with a computer, he or she can have the same level of preparation that a top grandmaster is having. And working methods, then if you don't know how to do that effectively, there'll be someone online who's willing to teach you. And so, this process runs forward. In philosophical terms, to think that human beings have been hammering away at the game of chess with the current rules for about 500 years, it's a bit annoying that a machine managed to become a better chess playing entity in 4 hours. Though we are talking of millions of machines in millions of hours. So, of course, 4 hours is a nice joke to crack, but in reality, I think it played 50 million games with itself. So you have to take, with that caveat, that is scary. And what is especially scary about AlphaZero is that it seems to have picked up everything without looking at previous knowledge. So it didn't like to take a database of all previous ideas and then test them. It just discovered it from zero. More or less like speaking a language without meeting a person who speaks that language. That sort of thing. That is philosophically scary. In chess, it has very little ramification. So I'll tell you why. The first thing is because older computers with older techniques, so brute force computing, all that, and general purpose computers rather than these specialized ones, were already 400 to 500 points stronger than the best chess players. So from our perspective, it's like watching a race between a car that's 500 kilometers faster than, let's say, Usain Bolt, and a car that's 700 kilometers faster than him. You lose perspective on what exactly the difference is. In terms of ideas, I think it could be interesting. It could give a spark. It's AI techniques are able to develop a few new ideas, and if their games are revolutionary, we can find new ways of playing. Well, that'll be a positive jolt, but I wouldn't say that it would be game-changing in any way. Even if she couldn't understand chess at a high level, she would be able to read players' body language, their moods and things like that, and give pretty accurate judgments. So, she became an insider without actually getting to know much about chess. Before a tournament, for a few days, essentially I have to do nothing except make sure my computer's in order, pack that. She'd take care of everything else, take care of the tickets. So it allowed me, I never had to think of practical matters. To the point when she was expecting our son, and I started traveling alone again. It was traumatic. It was half the tournaments I'd come back and she said, "But I never saw you, do this or use this or that." And I would say, "But I didn't even know it was there." She was at the bottom of your suitcase, and I never looked at it. Half the time I'd call her and say, "Where is something?" And she'd say, "Okay, go to the right hand side, it's there." So I'd become completely dependent. She's very perceptive over chess, and during the matches, I think the reason I won many matches after 2006 was that we had this arrangement for many years. So during the Kramnik match especially, I was able to focus in a way that I'd simply not before. He knows how to play chess. He's learned the rules. He's interested. But still, if I ever sit across a chessboard with him, he wants to start playing the fool. So we've not managed a full serious game together, but I'm hoping we'll get to that. But at the moment, he's interested in chess. He's learning stuff. He's lapping it up fast. He's pretty much free to do what he wants, but I would like him to at least know what chess is. I would like him to play chess and experience it, so that he knows what it is I'm doing. But beyond that, he's also very interested in painting and art. So he likes puzzles. So he's many interests. I don't know which one will turn up.